There is a profound truth that many people do not realize. You live a very kind life. You always try to help others. But sometimes, your own life is still full of unexplained suffering. Have you ever wondered why? It is not because you are not good enough. It is because you might be unknowingly interfering with the karma of someone else. We often look at the people we love when they are in pain. Our very first instinct is to rescue them. We want to wipe away their tears. We want to carry their heavy burdens. We offer them our money. We offer them our time. We even sacrifice our own inner peace. We think this is the highest form of compassion. We believe we are doing the work of the divine. But everyone, true compassion requires deep wisdom. Every person born into this world carries their own invisible weight. This is the sum of their past actions and choices. It is their personal karma. The universe is a perfect and precise teacher. It creates specific situations and challenges for every single soul. These challenges are never random punishments. They are absolutely necessary lessons for spiritual growth. When you arbitrarily step in to solve their problems, you interrupt their lesson. You take away the exact experience their soul needs to finally mature and understand. Let us look deeply at this illusion of rescue. Imagine a butterfly struggling fiercely to emerge from its tight cocoon. You see the painful struggle. Your heart aches for the tiny creature. You decide to help. You take a small blade. You carefully cut the cocoon open to free the butterfly. You think you did a beautiful and kind thing. But what happens right after? The butterfly crawls out with a swollen body and completely shriveled wings. It can never fly in the open sky. The struggle inside the cocoon was not a cruel punishment. That intense struggle was the exact process designed by nature. It forces vital fluids into the wings so the butterfly can eventually take flight. By saving it too soon, you actually destroyed its true potential. Human life operates on the exact same principle. When we constantly rescue people from the direct consequences of their own actions, we weaken their spirit. We prevent them from developing true resilience. We steal their sacred opportunity to realize their own mistakes. The universe does not simply forget the unlearned lesson. It will just send them the same lesson again in another form. And usually, the next test will be much harder than the first. The danger of interference goes even deeper. The universal law demands absolute balance. If a karmic debt is owed, it must be paid by the one who created it. If you blindly step in to pay that debt for someone else, the universe shifts that heavy burden directly onto your shoulders. You become completely entangled in a complicated web. A web that was never meant for you to navigate. Suddenly, you start feeling physically and mentally exhausted. You face sudden and unexplainable misfortunes in your own life. You sit down and wonder why your genuine kindness is rewarded with so much pain. Please understand this clearly. It is not a cruel punishment for your good heart. It is simply the natural consequence of breaking the strict universal law of balance. Compassion without clear wisdom is like pouring fresh water into a broken vase. It just drains away into the ground and leaves everyone feeling completely empty. You must begin to realize that everyone has the absolute right to walk their own chosen path. You must look closely at what you call compassion. Everyone often confuses deep love with a desire to control. You see someone you care about making a terrible mistake. You quickly jump in to fix the situation. You tell them what to do. You try to arrange their life so they will not feel pain. But is this truly love? Or is it just your own fear of seeing them suffer? When you try to rewrite the destiny of another person, you are fighting against the natural order of the universe. Every soul has a very specific curriculum in this school of life. The universe writes this curriculum with absolute precision. When you force your own solution onto their problems, you act as if you know better than the divine law. This creates a very heavy burden. You unknowingly place a massive weight upon your own shoulders. You lose your own inner peace. Your mind becomes filled with deep anxiety about their personal choices. You lie awake at night. You worry about a path that you were never meant to walk. You are sacrificing your own spiritual energy for a battle you cannot win. Think about a beautiful river flowing down a tall mountain. The river must hit heavy rocks and navigate tight corners to find its way to the grand ocean. These difficult obstacles give the river its true strength and its natural shape. If you try to dig a completely straight canal to make the journey easy, the water loses its vital energy. It quickly becomes a completely stagnant pool. The people you love are exactly like that flowing river. Their obstacles are the rocks they must face to find their own true strength. When you constantly remove the rocks from their path, you take away their sacred chance to discover their own power. You leave them weak and entirely dependent on your physical help. This is a very difficult truth to accept. True compassion is not about shielding people from their own necessary life lessons. It is about standing firmly by their side while they learn. You can offer them a warm light. You can offer them an open heart. But you must never carry their karmic load. If you do, you disrupt the sacred cosmic balance. You will eventually sink under a tremendous weight that does not belong to you. You must learn the delicate art of letting go. Letting go does not mean you stop loving them. It means you love them enough to completely trust their own spiritual journey. You trust that the universe is guiding them exactly where they need to go to learn what they need to know. Let us deeply reflect on a simple story about natural growth. There was once a very dedicated old gardener. He lived near a beautiful and peaceful lake. He spent his entire life taking care of rare plants. His absolute favorite was a special kind of lotus. This lotus had the most magnificent white petals. It brought immense joy to his heart. When the warm seasons passed, the harsh winter finally arrived. The green leaves of the lotus slowly turned brown and fell away. The surface of the calm lake became covered in thick ice. The lotus completely disappeared from sight. It had retreated deep into the dark mud to rest and gather strength. This is the natural cycle of all living things. But the gardener loved the lotus too much. He looked at the frozen lake every single day. His heart was filled with heavy sadness. He felt pity for the fragile plant buried under the freezing ice. He firmly believed the lotus was suffering in the dark cold. He thought he needed to save his beloved flower from the harsh winter. He decided to take action. He gathered dry wood and built a large fire near the edge of the lake. He carefully boiled large pots of water. He poured the warm water over the frozen ice. He did this every single day with great effort. Slowly, the thick ice began to melt. The water in that small corner of the lake became unnaturally warm. Deep down in the mud, the roots of the lotus felt the sudden warmth. The plant was confused by this unnatural temperature. It thought that the bright spring had already arrived. It used all of its stored energy to push a green shoot through the dark mud. A tiny bud finally broke through the surface of the water. The gardener was absolutely thrilled. He thought his deep compassion had saved the delicate flower. He believed he had defeated the cruel winter. But his joy did not last very long. The air above the lake was still freezing cold. The bitter winter wind blew aggressively across the water. The delicate new shoot could not survive the freezing wind. It quickly withered and turned black. Because the lotus had used all of its winter reserves to grow too early, the roots were completely exhausted. The plant had no energy left to survive the rest of the cold season. When the true spring finally arrived months later, the lake was filled with bright flowers. But the gardener's favorite white lotus never bloomed again. It had died completely in the mud. Everyone, please look closely at the deep lesson hidden in this story. The gardener did not act out of malice or hatred. He acted out of pure love. But his love lacked the clear light of wisdom. He did not respect the divine timing of the universe. He forced his own timeline onto a living being. The harsh winter is not a punishment for the flower. It is an absolute necessity. The deep cold forces the roots to grow stronger in the dark. The resting period prepares the plant for the bright spring. When you artificially remove the cold, you destroy the natural process of growth. The people around you are exactly like that white lotus. Sometimes they are going through their own harsh winter. They face deep sorrow, heavy challenges, or painful failures. Your heart aches when you see them struggle in the cold. You desperately want to build a warm fire to melt their ice. You want to save them from the dark mud of their karma. But you must pause and ask yourself a vital question. Are you helping them, or are you exhausting their spiritual roots? If you artificially solve their problems, you might force them to bloom before they are truly ready. They will face the bitter winds of life without the necessary inner strength. Their spirit will wither just like that tragic white lotus. You must trust the perfect timing of their own journey. You must let them rest in their winter until they are strong enough to greet their own spring. Where is the exact line between lending a helping hand and stealing a sacred life lesson? This is a question everyone must deeply consider. The boundary is incredibly thin. It is very easy to step across it without even realizing. You see someone you care about falling down. Your immediate reaction is to pick them up. You want to carry them so they will not fall again. But you must ask yourself a hard question. Are you helping them walk, or are you making them forget how to use their own legs? In the clear light of Buddhist wisdom, compassion is profoundly beautiful. But compassion must always walk hand in hand with deep wisdom. Compassion without clear wisdom is completely blind. It can cause more harm than good. True compassion is not about erasing the difficulties of another person. It is about giving them the courage to face their own struggles. Think about a small child learning to take their very first steps. The child stands up on shaky legs. They take one step and heavily fall to the ground. They might cry loudly. They might feel completely frustrated. If you constantly pick the child up and carry them everywhere, they will never feel the pain of falling. But they will also never develop the strong muscles needed to walk alone. By trying to protect the child from a scraped knee, you rob them of their independent mobility. Adults are exactly the same in their spiritual journey. Life is a grand school. Every mistake is a necessary teacher. Every failure is a stepping stone to deep maturity. When a person makes a poor choice, they generate a specific karmic energy. The natural consequence of that choice is the exact medicine their soul requires to heal and learn. When you quickly jump in to solve their problems, you take away their medicine. When you constantly protect them from facing the truth, you keep them in the dark. You think you are being a wonderful friend. You think you are being a devoted family member. But in reality, you are acting as an obstacle to their spiritual evolution. You are stealing the exact experience they need to wake up. You might wonder how you can truly help someone without interfering. The answer is incredibly profound. You offer them tools, not permanent solutions. You offer them a safe space to express their pain. You listen to their sorrow with a completely open heart. You shine a bright light on their path so they can see the hidden obstacles. But you must absolutely refuse to walk the path for them. If they need water, you show them how to dig a well. You do not spend your entire life carrying heavy buckets of water to their door. If you carry the water for them, they will suffer greatly the moment you are gone. True help empowers the person. It awakens their own inner strength. Interfering weakens the person. It creates a toxic cycle of endless dependency. You must observe your own intentions very carefully. Sometimes, we help others simply because their pain makes us feel terribly uncomfortable. We rush to fix their problems just to quiet our own internal anxiety. This is not true kindness. This is a hidden form of selfishness. We are using their life as a way to soothe our own restless mind. To practice pure compassion, you must learn to sit quietly with the discomfort of watching someone struggle. You must send them powerful thoughts of love. You must wish for their inner clarity. But you must keep your hands away from their karmic wheel. You must trust that their soul is entirely capable of handling the lessons the universe has assigned to them. When you step back, you give them the greatest gift of all. You give them the deep respect of believing in their own spiritual power. You allow them to face the consequences of their actions. This builds true resilience. It creates a foundation of unshakable wisdom within their own heart. But if you refuse to step back, a very different energy begins to take shape. You will soon discover that taking over the struggles of another person invites a sudden and massive shift in your own life. We must now look deeply at the hidden cost of our actions. What exactly happens when you completely solve a problem that someone else was meant to solve? You might think the problem simply disappears into the thin air. You might believe you have successfully cheated the universal law. But energy never vanishes. It only changes form or changes location. Imagine the universe as a massive and flawless accounting system. In this system, karma is very much like a financial debt. Every soul accumulates specific debts through their past choices and actions. These debts are not meant to crush the soul. They are designed to teach the soul how to manage its own spiritual wealth. The universe assigns a specific heavy weight to a specific person for a vital reason. When you constantly step in and take away their problem, you are doing something very dangerous. You are officially signing your own name on their karmic loan. The universe does not care who pays the debt. The universe only demands that the debt is balanced. If you blindly reach out and grab their heavy load, the universe will smoothly transfer that exact weight onto your own shoulders. This is the profound weight of borrowed debt. Have you ever noticed what happens after you fiercely intervene in someone else's crisis? You might successfully pull them out of their dark hole. But almost immediately, your own life begins to fall apart. You suddenly feel entirely drained of all physical and mental energy. Your mind becomes clouded with intense anxiety. Strange obstacles begin to block your own peaceful path. Financial losses suddenly appear out of nowhere. Deep misunderstandings arise in your own relationships. You sit in the dark and feel deeply betrayed by life. You wonder why your immense kindness has been rewarded with such heavy misfortune. Everyone, you must understand this clearly. The universe is not punishing your good heart. The universe is simply adjusting the scales of balance. You chose to carry a heavy boulder that was strictly assigned to another soul. The exhaustion you feel is the real weight of their unlearned lesson pressing down on your spirit. You must also realize the tragic irony of this situation. By taking their pain, you actually did not save them at all. Because they did not pay their own debt, their spiritual account remains unbalanced. The universe will simply create a brand new situation for them to face. And because they did not learn the lesson the first time, the next test will be significantly harder. You have sacrificed your own peace for absolutely nothing. You have drained your own vital energy, and they are still completely lost. Your misguided compassion has created 2 victims instead of 1. You are now exhausted, and they are still weak. This borrowed weight will slowly crush your spirit if you do not let it go. You must have the profound courage to return the heavy boulder to its rightful owner. You must allow them to feel the weight of their own choices. This is the only way they will ever build the strength to carry themselves. We will soon see exactly how this tragic cycle plays out in the lives of those who refuse to learn. Let us look at a powerful story from the past. It reveals the devastating danger of carrying another person's debt. There was once a very wealthy merchant. He possessed a deeply compassionate heart. One day, he saw a young man being dragged to the local prison. The young man had stolen a small bag of silver coins. He was crying bitterly. He begged for a second chance. The merchant felt immense pity for him. He immediately stepped forward. He opened his own heavy purse. He paid the stolen money back to the angry victim. He even gave extra coins to the guards to release the young man. The young man fell to his knees. He cried tears of gratitude. He promised he would never steal again. The merchant felt a warm glow of satisfaction. He truly believed his money had saved a soul from complete ruin. But he did not understand the strict law of karma. A few months passed. The young man found himself in trouble once more. Because he never experienced the harsh reality of the prison, he did not truly fear the consequences of his actions. He stole a larger amount of gold from a local market. Again, he was caught. Again, the wealthy merchant rushed to his rescue. The merchant paid a much heavier fine. He warned the young man strictly. But his words carried no real weight. The young man only saw a permanent shield. He subconsciously realized he could commit any crime without paying the painful price. The situation escalated terribly. The young man became incredibly arrogant. He believed he was completely untouchable. One dark night, he decided to rob the royal treasury. This was a massive crime. The royal guards were furious. They chased the young man through the dark streets. They caught him hiding directly inside the beautiful garden of the wealthy merchant. Because the merchant had protected the thief so many times before, the royal guards accused the merchant of being the mastermind. The king was absolutely merciless. He ordered his soldiers to seize the entire fortune of the merchant. The beautiful house was destroyed. The merchant's family was thrown into sudden poverty. And the young man was still sent to the darkest prison. The merchant lost absolutely everything. He sat in the cold dirt and wept. He did not understand why his pure kindness brought such absolute destruction to his own family. He had forgotten a vital spiritual truth. The prison was the exact bitter medicine the young man needed from the very beginning. By constantly buying away the bitter medicine, the merchant allowed the disease of greed to become entirely fatal. The merchant bought the karma of the thief. He tied his own peaceful destiny to a violent and reckless path. This is what happens when you use your own resources to block the universal law. You do not save the person. You simply invite their chaotic storm directly into your own living room. You might think that your endless sacrifices will eventually wake them up. You might hope that they will finally see your love and change their ways. But human nature operates in a very strange way under the heavy influence of karma. When you constantly interfere with their lessons, they do not feel true gratitude. They begin to harbor a dark and silent resentment towards you. Have you ever poured your entire heart into helping someone? You gave them your time. You gave them your money. You completely exhausted yourself to pull them out of their dark storm. But instead of showing deep gratitude, they eventually turned against you. They became distant. They became incredibly angry. They even blamed you for their own failures. This is one of the most painful experiences in human life. It breaks your heart into tiny pieces. You feel deeply betrayed. You wonder why your pure love was met with such sharp hostility. We must look at this painful situation through the clear lens of spiritual wisdom. There is a very specific reason why this happens. When you constantly solve every problem for another person, you are doing something very dangerous to their soul. You are taking away their personal power. You are silently telling them they are completely incapable of managing their own life. On the surface, they might accept your help. They might even ask for it. But deep down in their subconscious mind, a very dark seed is planted. That dark seed is silent resentment. Human beings are born with a deep need for independence. Every soul wants to feel strong. Every soul wants to feel capable of overcoming its own challenges. When you jump in to fight their battles, you rob them of their victory. You steal the exact moment of triumph that would have built their self-esteem. Over time, they become entirely dependent on your energy. They forget how to use their own wings. And when they look at you, they do not see a kind savior. They see a constant reminder of their own weakness. Your presence makes them feel incredibly small. Their ego cannot handle this immense heavy debt. They cannot repay you for all the sacrifices you made. The human mind hates to feel forever indebted. To escape this crushing feeling of inferiority, their mind twists the reality. They begin to find faults in you. They start to criticize your methods. They aggressively push you away. You must understand this profound truth. They are not entirely evil for turning against you. They are reacting strictly to the unnatural dynamic you created. By interfering with their personal karma, you trapped them in a golden cage of your own making. You fed them, but you took away their wild freedom. The bird will eventually bite the hand that feeds it simply because it desperately wants to fly alone. Your constant intervention acts as a heavy shadow over their life. True love should make a person feel brave. True love should inspire them to stand incredibly tall. But interfering love makes them shrink. It keeps them entirely trapped in a state of emotional childhood. They will eventually rebel against you just like a frustrated teenager rebelling against a controlling parent. You must heal your broken heart from this illusion of betrayal. Do not carry bitter anger toward those who walked away after you helped them. Their departure is actually a painful blessing in disguise. It is the universe forcefully cutting the toxic karmic cord between you. It is the divine law demanding that you finally return to your own sacred center. The universe is telling you to stop managing the spiritual accounts of others. You must now learn to honor the sacred fire burning within their own soul. We will see exactly why their personal struggle is so deeply necessary for their ultimate awakening. Everyone, we must learn to look at hardship through a completely different lens. When we see someone crying in the dark, we immediately think something has gone terribly wrong. We view their struggle as a cruel tragedy. But the spiritual reality is vastly different. Their pain is not always a curse. It is often a deeply sacred process. It is the precise fire designed to forge their inner wisdom. Think about a piece of raw gold buried deep in the earth. It is covered in heavy dirt and deep impurities. To become a beautiful and shining ornament, it must go through an incredibly intense process. The goldsmith does not gently wash the gold with cool water. The goldsmith places the raw metal into a fiercely blazing fire. The immense heat burns away all the useless dirt. The fire does not destroy the gold. It reveals the pure and brilliant essence hidden deep inside. The human soul operates exactly like that raw gold. The painful struggles of life are the blazing fire. When a person is going through a terrible hardship, they are burning away their own deep illusions. They are shedding their heavy attachments and their toxic ego. This is a profoundly sacred moment in their spiritual evolution. If you run quickly to pull them out of the fire, you completely stop the purification process. You leave them covered in their old dirt. You rob them of their magnificent chance to shine with true wisdom. You must develop the immense courage to let them burn in their own sacred fire. You must trust that the divine law will never give them more heat than their soul can endure. Everyone must walk bravely through their own harsh winter. The freezing cold wind of sadness and failure is absolutely necessary. It strips the dead leaves from the fragile branches of their mind. It forces their spiritual roots to dig much deeper into the dark earth. If you constantly build a warm greenhouse to protect them from the cold wind, their roots will always remain incredibly shallow. When a real storm eventually arrives, they will easily fall completely over. Honoring the painful struggle of another person is the absolute highest form of spiritual respect. It means you look directly into their tearful eyes and see their absolute strength. You do not see a weak and helpless victim. You see a powerful soul capable of immense transformation. You silently hold the firm belief that they will overcome this dark valley. Your quiet faith in their hidden strength is infinitely more powerful than your physical intervention. When you completely stop treating them like a fragile glass cup, they begin to discover their own iron will. They realize they possess a divine power they never knew existed. They learn to stand firmly on their own 2 feet. This is the magnificent gift of allowing the universe to do its perfect work. Let us listen to a story about a very powerful king from a distant past. This story will show you the exact danger of removing all obstacles from someone you love. This king ruled a vast and wealthy empire. He had a young son. The king loved the little prince more than life itself. But his deep love was blinded by a terrible fear. He was terrified that his son would ever feel physical pain or emotional sorrow. The king made a very strict decree. He completely banned all suffering from the royal palace. No one was allowed to cry in front of the young prince. No one was allowed to tell him sad stories. The king hired hundreds of guards to clear every stone from the paths where the prince walked. If the prince wanted a toy, he received it instantly. If the prince made a mistake, the king quickly punished the servants instead. The young prince grew up in an absolutely perfect bubble. He never felt the sting of a scraped knee. He never felt the sharp pain of rejection. He never faced a single difficult challenge. He grew into a handsome young man. But he was completely empty inside. He possessed absolutely no inner strength. He had no spiritual resilience. Time passed quickly. The old king eventually fell ill and passed away. The kingdom mourned deeply. The young prince was suddenly crowned as the new ruler. On his very first week on the throne, a terrible crisis struck the empire. A massive drought destroyed the crops. The people were hungry. The neighboring enemies saw an opportunity and prepared to attack the borders. The royal advisors rushed to the new king. They desperately asked for his guidance. They needed a strong leader to make difficult decisions. But the young king completely froze in pure terror. He had never faced a problem he could not instantly wish away. He had no idea how to endure immense pressure. He locked himself entirely in his dark room. He cried out for his father to fix the situation. Because the leader was paralyzed by fear, the entire empire quickly fell apart. The enemies easily breached the borders. The once glorious kingdom was completely destroyed in just a few short weeks. The young king lost everything. He was forced to wander the world as a broken man. Everyone, look closely at the tragic mistake of the old king. The king truly believed he was giving his son the greatest gift. He thought he was creating a perfect paradise. But he actually built a very beautiful prison. By removing every single hardship, he stole his son's ability to survive in the real world. He stole the necessary karma that would have forged a strong and wise ruler. We often act exactly like this foolish king. We desperately want to shield our loved ones from the harsh reality of life. We quickly pay their debts. We quickly solve their arguments. We quickly hide their mistakes from the world. We think we are protecting their fragile hearts. But we are actually preparing them for absolute failure. When you completely remove the struggle, you remove the sacred opportunity for spiritual growth. A sword must be struck violently with a heavy hammer to become sharp. If you wrap the raw iron in soft silk, it will never become a useful blade. It will just remain a dull and useless piece of metal. You must remember that you will not live forever. You cannot protect them from the universe until the end of time. The greatest act of love is to prepare them for the fierce storms. You must let them face their own karma. You must let them feel the sharp pain of their own mistakes. Only then will they develop the unshakable foundation needed to stand tall. We must learn the profound wisdom of stepping back and watching them grow. There is a profound difference between abandoning someone and stepping back with pure wisdom. Many people confuse the two. They think that stepping back means they do not care. They feel incredibly guilty when they stop helping. But stepping back is often the highest expression of true love. It requires an immense amount of inner strength. It requires complete trust in the divine plan. Imagine a massive and dark ocean. The waves are incredibly high. The wind is howling with terrifying force. In the middle of this violent storm, there is a small wooden ship. Someone you love deeply is steering that ship. They are struggling fiercely against the dark water. They are exhausted. They are terrified. You are standing safely on the solid shore. Your immediate instinct is to jump into the freezing water. You want to swim out to their tiny ship. You want to grab the heavy wooden wheel. You want to steer the ship to safety yourself. You think this is the only way to save them from drowning. But let us look closely at the reality of this wild ocean. If you jump into the violent waves, you will not save them. The freezing water will quickly drain your own energy. The massive waves will violently pull you under. You will simply become another drowning victim in their storm. They will then have to drop the wheel to try and save you. You have just made their dangerous situation much worse. So what is the most powerful thing you can do? You must become a steady and unshakable lighthouse. A lighthouse never jumps into the violent ocean. A lighthouse does not run around frantically trying to catch the small ships. It simply stands tall on the solid rock. It remains completely rooted in its own foundation. The lighthouse shines a brilliant and piercing light into the dark night. It cuts through the thick fog. It shows the struggling sailors exactly where the sharp rocks are hidden. It offers clear direction. It offers profound hope. But the lighthouse absolutely demands that the sailors steer their own ship. You must become that powerful lighthouse for the people you love. When they are facing their own difficult karma, do not jump into their chaotic storm. Remain firmly rooted in your own inner peace. Maintain your own spiritual balance. Let your calm presence be the bright light they desperately need. You can offer them wise words. You can offer them a warm and safe place to rest. You can remind them of their own hidden strength. But you must firmly refuse to take the wheel of their life. They must learn to navigate their own heavy karma. They must feel the harsh wind on their face. They must learn exactly how to balance their own ship. When you finally step back, something magnificent happens. They stop looking at you to solve their problems. They finally look deep inside their own heart. They find the courage they never knew they possessed. They learn how to read the stars. They learn how to conquer the violent waves. The journey might be incredibly difficult. They might hit a few sharp rocks along the way. They might take a very long time to reach the safe shore. But when they finally arrive, they will be completely transformed. They will step off their ship as a powerful and wise captain. They will no longer be a frightened passenger in their own life. This profound wisdom of stepping back cures the toxic cycle of dependency. It sets both of you entirely free. You are free from the crushing weight of their heavy karma. They are free to claim their own absolute power. It takes immense courage to watch someone you love struggle in the dark. Your heart will undoubtedly ache. But you must anchor your heart in the deep truth of the universe. The universe is not trying to destroy them. The universe is trying to wake them up. Your bright light is all they truly need to find their way home. We will now explore a story about the complex threads of life and how struggling is exactly what makes us strong. Let us look deeply at a story about an old master weaver. He lived in a quiet village at the edge of a great forest. This master was famous for creating the most beautiful and complex carpets in the world. His carpets were not just beautiful. They were extremely strong. They could last for hundreds of years. People traveled from very far away just to buy his work. One day, a young boy came to the master. The boy wanted to learn this magnificent skill. The old master accepted him as an apprentice. For the first few months, the master only taught the boy how to prepare the simple threads. Then, the day finally came for the boy to weave his very first small carpet. The master set up a large wooden loom for the young apprentice. He gave the boy hundreds of delicate silk threads. The boy started weaving with great excitement. But weaving is incredibly difficult. Within an hour, the boy made a wrong move. The fine silk threads suddenly tangled together. They formed a very tight and chaotic knot. The boy tried to pull the threads apart. But he pulled too hard. The knot only became tighter. He felt completely frustrated. Tears filled his eyes. He ran to the old master and begged for help. He asked the master to untangle the heavy mess. He knew the master had the magic touch to fix it instantly. The old master walked slowly to the loom. He looked closely at the terrible knot. But he firmly put his hands behind his back. He refused to touch the threads. He looked at the crying boy and spoke softly. He said he could easily untangle the knot in one single minute. But if he did that, the boy would never become a true master weaver. The master explained a very profound secret. The true skill of weaving does not come from making perfect rows. The true skill comes from learning exactly how to untangle the chaotic mistakes. Every single knot teaches the hands how to understand the tension of the thread. If the master fixes the knot, the boy will remain a beginner forever. He will always depend on someone else to fix his mistakes. The boy had to sit there for 3 entire days. His fingers were tired. His mind was exhausted. But slowly, he learned how to loosen the tight silk without breaking it. He learned immense patience. He learned the deep nature of the threads. When he finally unraveled the last piece of the knot, a bright smile appeared on his face. He had gained a powerful skill that no one could ever take away from him. Everyone, human karma is exactly like that tangled loom. We weave our own lives with every thought, every word, and every single action. Sometimes we make the wrong choices. We create massive and painful knots in our own destiny. These knots manifest as painful illness, financial ruin, or broken relationships. When you rush in to untangle the karmic knots for someone else, you act like a foolish teacher. You take away their days of vital struggle. You fix the surface of the problem. But you leave them entirely unskilled for the next heavy challenge. The universe gives us these painful knots for a magnificent reason. The struggle to untangle our own karma is the exact process that builds our deep spiritual wisdom. We must learn the patience to let others master their own loom. Many people hold a very deep misunderstanding about the law of karma. They believe that karma is a form of cruel punishment. They think a furious divine force is sitting in the sky. They imagine this force throws heavy rocks at people who make bad choices. But this is completely untrue. The universal law is absolutely neutral. It holds no anger. It holds no malice. It is a perfect and precise teacher. Karma is simply the profound law of cause and effect. If you plant the seed of an apple tree will surely grow. The earth does not judge the seed. The earth simply provides the exact conditions for the seed to become what it is meant to be. The universe operates in the exact same way with our spiritual choices. Every single soul receives the exact lesson it requires to awaken. The universe never makes a mistake. It never gives the wrong test to the wrong person. It never gives a burden that is too heavy for a soul to eventually carry. The weight of the challenge is perfectly calibrated to the specific spiritual need of that individual. When you look at someone you deeply care about, you might think their suffering is entirely unfair. You might look up at the sky and question the wisdom of the divine. You might think the universe has made a terrible mistake. And so, you step in to correct this imagined error. You try to fix the situation using your own limited vision. But please consider this profound truth. When you arbitrarily interfere with their personal karma, you are silently claiming that you know better than the universe. You are acting as if the perfect cosmic law is flawed. You are trying to rewrite a divine curriculum that was written with absolute precision. Let us look at a beautiful example. Imagine a grand temple being built by a master architect. Every single stone has a specific place. Every single pillar is designed to carry a very precise amount of weight. The architect knows exactly how much pressure each pillar needs to hold the grand roof. If you secretly remove the heavy weight from one specific pillar, you think you are doing it a favor. You think you are saving it from a heavy burden. But you have just destroyed the perfect balance of the entire temple. The roof will eventually collapse. The struggles of your loved ones are exactly like those vital pillars. The heavy pressure they feel is exactly what makes their soul strong enough to hold their own spiritual temple. The divine architect knows exactly what they are doing. The pressure is completely necessary for their ultimate stability. We often view pain as the ultimate enemy. We see someone crying and we immediately think something is terribly wrong. But the universe views pain very differently. The universe uses pain as a necessary alarm bell. An alarm bell is incredibly loud and disturbing. But it wakes you up when the house is on fire. When you jump in to solve the karma of another person, you are simply turning off their alarm bell. You do this because the loud noise makes you feel uncomfortable. But by turning off the alarm, you leave them entirely asleep inside a burning house. They will not realize the deep danger of their own toxic habits. They will continue to make the exact same mistakes. You must surrender your intense desire to control the natural flow of life. You must develop a profound trust in the intelligence of the universe. The universe loves them just as much as you do. In fact, the universe loves them with a much deeper wisdom. It loves them enough to let them fall. It loves them enough to let them feel the sharp pain of their own mistakes. This is how true spiritual strength is forged. The law of karma is a beautiful mirror. It simply reflects the absolute truth of our own actions back to us. It forces us to look deeply at our own reflection. If you constantly stand in front of the mirror to block their view, they will never see their own true face. They will never understand what they urgently need to change. Stepping back requires immense faith. It requires you to sit quietly and watch the perfect law unfold. You must remember that their soul chose this specific path. They came to this earth to learn these exact painful lessons. By respecting their difficult journey, you are deeply honoring their brave soul. But we must also look deeply inside our own minds. We must ask a very difficult question about our own hidden motives. We must investigate why we feel such an overwhelming urge to jump in and save everyone around us. We will soon discover a very surprising truth about our own ego and our hidden fears. We must now turn the mirror directly toward ourselves. We must look deeply into our own hidden motives. When we see someone suffering, we feel a very strong urge to save them. We quickly jump into action. We offer our money. We offer our solutions. We truly think we are acting from pure and selfless love. But we must ask a very uncomfortable question. Are we truly helping them? Or are we simply trying to calm our own deep anxiety? Human beings naturally want to avoid pain. When you watch someone you love go through a terrible storm, it hurts your own heart. You feel a heavy tightness in your chest. You feel a deep sense of absolute helplessness. This feeling of helplessness is incredibly uncomfortable for the human ego. The ego absolutely hates feeling powerless. So what does the ego do? It immediately seeks a way to regain control. It pushes you to completely fix the external situation. It tells you that if you can quickly solve their problem, their crying will stop. If their crying stops, your own discomfort will finally disappear. Please reflect on this profound truth carefully. You are not rescuing them to end their suffering. You are actually rescuing them to end your own uncomfortable feelings. You are using their life as a tool to quiet your own restless mind. This is not pure compassion. This is a very subtle and hidden form of selfishness. There is another dark shadow hidden inside the desire to save others. It is the spiritual ego. The spiritual ego loves to play the role of the grand hero. When you save someone from a disaster, you feel incredibly important. You feel powerful. You feel like a wise and noble savior. The person you helped might look up to you with deep gratitude. They might praise your immense kindness. This praise feeds your hidden ego. It makes you feel entirely superior. Subconsciously, you begin to need their weakness. You need them to remain helpless so you can continue to be the strong hero in their story. This dynamic is deeply toxic. It traps both souls in a very dark illusion. You become addicted to feeling needed. They become addicted to being saved. You are no longer two equal souls walking the spiritual path. You have created a master and servant relationship. This completely violates the natural law of spiritual equality. True compassion requires the absolute death of this hidden ego. Pure compassion is brave enough to sit in the dark. If a friend is sitting in a dark hole of sorrow, pure compassion does not throw down a rope to forcefully pull them up. Pure compassion climbs down into the dark hole. It sits quietly beside them. It gently holds their hand. It acknowledges that the dark is scary, but they are not alone. The ego cannot do this. The ego is terrified of the dark hole. The ego stays safely at the top and screams loud instructions. The ego throws down a ladder and gets very angry when the friend is too weak to climb. You must learn to deeply observe your own mind. The next time you feel the desperate urge to interfere, pause for one deep breath. Look at the anxiety rising in your own chest. Acknowledge your own fear of their pain. Sit quietly with your own discomfort. Do not act blindly just to soothe yourself. Let us look closer at the illusion of control. We live in a world that constantly praises problem solvers. We are taught that action is always better than inaction. But spiritual wisdom teaches a completely different path. Sometimes doing nothing is the hardest and most powerful action you can ever take. Doing nothing requires immense trust. It requires you to trust the divine universe more than you trust your own hands. When you conquer your own fear of watching them struggle, you set them completely free. You give them the sacred space to find their own brilliant light. You stop casting your large shadow over their personal journey. You become a true friend of their soul, not a controlling manager of their life. The desire to absorb the pain of others can lead to complete disaster. We will soon see exactly what happens when a person tries to magically erase the suffering of an entire village. Let us listen to a profound story about a highly gifted healer. He lived in a very quiet village near the mountains. He had a heart full of deep compassion. He hated seeing people suffer from physical illness. He spent years studying powerful medicine. But one day, he discovered a very strange and magical ability. He found that he could completely absorb the pain of another person. He could pull their heavy illness directly into his own physical body. When a young man broke his leg, the healer gently touched him. The young man instantly walked away with zero pain. But the healer limped for an entire week. When an old woman suffered from a terrible fever, the healer absorbed the burning heat. The old woman smiled and went back to work. But the healer stayed in bed with a violent fever for many days. The villagers were absolutely amazed. They praised him as a living saint. They told everyone about his miraculous power. Soon, people from neighboring towns rushed to his small clinic. They did not come for bitter medicine. They did not come for advice on how to live a healthy life. They only came to drop their painful sickness onto his shoulders. Because the healing was so easy, the villagers completely changed their behavior. They stopped eating healthy food. They stopped resting when they were tired. They drank heavily and acted recklessly. They thought they were invincible. They knew the kind healer would simply take their pain away. They never learned the deep connection between their daily actions and their physical health. The healer truly believed he was doing the ultimate work of compassion. He thought sacrificing his own body was the highest form of pure love. He took the pain of 100 different people. But the human body is not designed to carry the heavy karma of an entire village. His vital energy began to drain completely. His bright eyes turned incredibly dark. His strong hands began to tremble constantly. One cold morning, the village woke up to a terrible tragedy. The kind healer had completely collapsed. His body was entirely broken under the crushing weight of 100 borrowed illnesses. He could no longer stand. He could no longer speak. He lay in the dark completely paralyzed by the pain that did not even belong to him. Because the healer was completely destroyed, the village was left with absolutely no medical help. The people who were magically cured suddenly became sick again. The root cause of their illness was their own bad habits. The healer had only removed the symptom. He never cured the deep root of their problem. Now, the village suffered vastly more than before. The people wept bitterly in the streets. They had lost their saint, and they had absolutely no idea how to heal themselves. Everyone, please look deeply at this tragic reflection. The healer did not save the village at all. He actually enabled their complete destruction. By removing the painful consequence of their reckless actions, he made them incredibly weak. He stole their vital opportunity to learn personal responsibility. You might be acting exactly like this tragic healer in your own life. You might not take physical illness. But you absorb the heavy emotional pain of your loved ones. You absorb their financial debts. You absorb their angry arguments. You magically fix their massive mistakes. You think you are being a wonderful protector. But you are slowly destroying your own vital energy. Your mind becomes incredibly heavy. Your heart becomes completely exhausted. You are carrying a crushing load of foreign karma. And just like the village, the people you save are not learning anything. They continue to make the exact same reckless mistakes. They completely depend on your constant sacrifice. You must deeply understand that you cannot cheat the universal law of cause and effect. You cannot absorb the spiritual lessons of another soul without destroying yourself in the process. True healing is never about taking the pain away magically. We must learn a completely different approach to love. We must learn how to observe their suffering with a deeply loving heart, without entangling our own precious spirit in their karmic web. If we cannot take away the pain of our loved ones, what exactly should we do? Do we simply walk away and leave them in the dark? The answer is absolutely no. The highest spiritual teaching offers a beautiful and profound alternative. It is called the art of compassionate witnessing. This is the ultimate skill you must learn to protect your own soul while truly loving another. Compassionate witnessing is deeply misunderstood by many people. They think it means being entirely cold. They think it means ignoring the tears of someone they love. But true witnessing is actually the warmest and most active form of love. It means you observe their painful struggle with a heart completely full of love. But your mind remains entirely detached from the final outcome. Let us deeply explore what this means. When a person is suffering, they feel completely isolated. They feel like they are trapped alone in a terrifying storm. They do not necessarily need you to stop the rain. They often just need to know they are not standing in the rain alone. When you practice compassionate witnessing, you offer them your deep and silent presence. You sit beside them in their dark room. You listen to their heavy sorrow without interrupting. You do not quickly offer a clever solution. You do not try to fix their broken pieces. You simply hold a safe and sacred space for their emotions to breathe. Think about the brilliant sun shining in the sky. The sun watches a tiny seed struggling to grow in the hard dirt. The sun does not come down and violently pull the green leaves out of the seed. The sun does not dig the soil to make the path easy. The sun simply shines its warm and steady light. It offers its radiant presence. And because of that constant light, the seed finds its own miraculous power to break through the hard earth. You must become exactly like that bright sun. You shine your warm love upon them. You send them powerful thoughts of healing and deep peace. But you absolutely respect the boundary of their personal karma. You understand that their soul must do the heavy work of growing. This practice requires you to release your desperate need to control their story. You must accept that you do not know what is ultimately best for their spiritual journey. The universe has a magnificent plan for them. Their current pain might be the exact catalyst they need for a massive awakening. If you force a premature ending to their storm, you steal their profound realization. When you sit with them, you must fiercely protect your own vital energy. You can easily imagine a beautiful circle of bright light surrounding your own body. This light allows your deep love to flow outward to them. But it strictly prevents their heavy karmic distress from entering your spirit. You remain completely anchored in your own inner peace. You are deeply empathetic, but you refuse to drown in their ocean. You stand firmly on the shore. You hold a bright lantern high above the crashing waves. Your calm and grounded energy is vastly more healing than any frantic attempt to rescue them. When they look at your peaceful face, their own panicked mind begins to quietly settle down. This beautiful practice honors their absolute strength. It silently communicates a very powerful message. It tells them that you believe in their ability to survive this harsh winter. We will now discover exactly how to provide practical support without becoming trapped in their painful karmic cycle. We have learned to sit quietly and offer our peaceful presence. But you might still wonder how to offer practical help in daily life. Helping someone is a truly beautiful act of love. But the specific method you choose determines the karmic outcome. You must learn to offer powerful tools instead of permanent solutions. You must offer a bright light instead of carrying people on your own back. Imagine a person trapped in a very dark and confusing maze. They are terrified and completely lost. They call out to you for help. If you jump into the maze to carry them out, you make a terrible mistake. You might easily get lost in their dark maze too. Even if you carry them out, they will learn absolutely nothing about the path. If they ever enter a maze again, they will be just as helpless. So how do you truly help them? You stand safely above the maze. You toss them a strong rope. You hand them a bright lantern. You shout clear directions from a place of safety. You tell them to turn left. You tell them to avoid the dead end. But you strictly demand that they use their own legs to walk out of the dark place. Providing tools means you deeply empower the person. You give them exactly what they need to fix their own life. If a friend is struggling deeply with financial debt, you do not simply pay their heavy bills. If you magically pay their bills, their careless habits will never change. They will create a completely new debt tomorrow. Instead, you gently sit down with them. You teach them how to manage their resources. You help them find a new way to earn a living. You offer them the vital knowledge they currently lack. If a loved one is dealing with a broken heart, you do not aggressively attack the person who hurt them. You do not try to arrange a brand new relationship for them. You simply offer a very safe space for their tears. You introduce them to the profound practice of deep breathing. You teach them how to gently observe their own painful thoughts. You give them the spiritual tools to heal their own broken spirit. This wise approach requires deep patience. Giving a quick solution is always much faster. Teaching someone how to use a tool takes a lot of time. It takes immense effort to watch them struggle with the new tool. They might use it incorrectly at first. They might feel incredibly frustrated and angry. They might even beg you to just do the heavy work for them. You must remain completely firm in your loving boundary. You must gently remind them of their own inner power. You tell them that they possess the absolute strength to overcome their mountain. When they finally learn to use the tools you provided, a magnificent transformation occurs. They build massive self-confidence. They realize they are the true masters of their own destiny. Your wise support becomes a vital stepping stone on their spiritual journey. You have successfully helped them without stealing their karmic lesson. You have deeply honored the divine law of personal responsibility. Your relationship with them becomes deeply healthy and beautifully balanced. You walk side by side as completely equal souls. We will now look at a powerful story about the necessity of physical struggle for true strength. Let us listen to a story about the wild forest. There was once a very kind man. He loved to walk deep in the woods. One warm day, he found a large eagle egg. It was resting safely in a fallen nest. The man decided to take the egg home. He kept it warm. He watched it carefully every single day. Finally, the shell began to crack. A tiny hole appeared on the surface. The man sat quietly and watched the miracle of life. He saw the little chick struggling inside. The chick was pushing hard against the hard shell. Hours passed slowly. The chick seemed to make no progress at all. It looked completely exhausted. The kind man felt deep pity in his heart. He thought the tiny bird was going to die from the immense effort. He wanted to help. He wanted to make the painful journey easier. So he reached out with his warm fingers. He gently peeled the broken shell away. He cracked the egg completely open. The small eagle slipped out very easily. The man smiled with great pride. He truly believed he had saved a precious life. But something was terribly wrong. The chick had a swollen body. Its wings were completely shriveled and weak. The man waited patiently. He expected the wings to expand and grow strong. He thought the young eagle would soon fly into the bright sky. But that glorious moment never arrived. The eagle spent its entire life crawling in the dirt. It never flew. It never touched the high clouds. Why did this happen? The man did not understand the profound law of nature. The tight shell was not an enemy. The severe struggle to break the shell was absolutely necessary. It was the exact process designed by the divine universe. The intense pushing forces vital blood from the body directly into the wings. Without that desperate struggle, the wings remain forever useless. By removing the physical obstacle, the man permanently destroyed the eagle. His blind compassion created a bird that could never fly. We must reflect deeply on this tragic mistake. Every human soul is like that wild eagle. Our painful karma is the hard shell surrounding us. When we face a heavy challenge, we must push against it. We must use all our inner force to break through our own limitations. This deep struggle is what forces spiritual power into our soul. It builds the exact strength we need to fly above our worldly attachments. When you quickly break the shell for someone else, you steal their sky. You leave them weak. You leave them entirely grounded in their own suffering. You must trust the hard shell of their karma. You must trust their innate power to break it. Let us look closely at the deeper meaning of this tragedy. The man loved the bird. But his love lacked profound wisdom. He focused only on the temporary discomfort of the chick. He completely ignored the long-term evolution of the soul. When you see a friend crying under the heavy weight of their life, you feel that same blind pity. You want to tear away their painful shell. You give them money to fix their mistakes. You fight their enemies for them. You think you are lifting them up. But you are actually cutting off their spiritual wings. They will never learn how to survive the fierce storms of life. They will crawl helplessly when you are no longer there to carry them. Please remember this undeniable truth. A soul can only claim its true power through its own direct experience. No one can breathe for you. No one can eat for you. And absolutely no one can achieve spiritual maturity for you. You must honor their sacred struggle. It is the only way they will ever learn to soar. We must turn our eyes away from their shell. We must begin to look very closely at our own. You have spent so much time looking outward. You have watched the terrible storms in the lives of other people. You have desperately tried to calm their restless waves. But now you must gently turn your eyes back to your own sacred path. There is a profound spiritual truth you must fully accept. The only karma you have the absolute authority to resolve is your own. You were not born into this world to act as the manager of the universe. You were born to understand your own deep illusions. You were born to heal your own hidden wounds. When you constantly focus on the mistakes of others, you completely abandon your own spiritual work. You leave your own beautiful garden full of wild weeds while you try to water the flowers in a different yard. We often try to fix other people because it is much easier than facing our own darkness. Looking inward takes immense courage. It requires you to sit in complete silence. It forces you to confront your own hidden fears. It makes you acknowledge your own heavy attachments. But this internal work is the only true way to bring peace to the world. Imagine a very muddy pond in a quiet forest. The water is completely dark with floating dirt. If you jump into the water to catch every single piece of dirt, what happens? Your wild movements will only stir up more mud from the deep bottom. The pond will become even darker. The only way to clear the muddy water is to step completely out of the pond. You must sit quietly on the green bank. You must let the water become perfectly still. The heavy dirt will naturally sink to the very bottom. The water will slowly become beautifully clear again. Your own mind operates in the exact same way. When you frantically jump into the chaotic drama of other people, you stir up massive confusion. You create more heavy karma for everyone involved. But when you step back and return to your own quiet center, a deep stillness begins to form. Your own internal peace becomes a powerful and silent force. When you find true balance within yourself, you do not need to speak loud words to help others. Your peaceful energy naturally radiates outward. People will feel a profound sense of safety just by standing near you. Your calm presence will silently encourage them to find their own stillness. You become a living example of spiritual strength. This is vastly more effective than any forced intervention. You must reclaim your vital energy today. Pull your spirit back from the endless problems of the outside world. Focus deeply on your own gentle breathing. Focus entirely on purifying your own daily actions. Focus strictly on speaking words of deep kindness. When your own inner lamp burns brightly, it effortlessly breaks the darkness for everyone around you. But you might still feel a heavy weight in your heart when you step back. You might feel a deep sense of sadness for the people you are no longer carrying. We will look deeply at how to dissolve this heavy emotion completely. When you finally decide to step back, a very heavy emotion often enters your mind. That heavy emotion is deep guilt. You watch someone you love struggling in the dark. You keep your hands completely still. Your heart aches terribly. You feel like you are abandoning them. You feel like a terrible friend. You feel like you have failed in your duty to love them. This guilt is incredibly painful. But you must understand exactly where this guilt comes from. It does not come from your pure soul. It comes from your deeply conditioned ego. Society has taught you that love means constant fixing. Society says that if you truly care, you must sacrifice your own peace to save them. But true spiritual wisdom teaches a completely different path. You must release this toxic guilt today. Letting go does not mean you stop loving. Letting go means you start loving them with profound wisdom. You must stop playing the role of the ultimate savior. You are a human being. You are a fellow traveler on this complex earth. You were never meant to carry the heavy karma of another soul. Think about a wild bird you found with a broken wing. You took the bird into your warm house. You fed it every single day. You watched the fragile wing slowly heal. Then the day finally comes to open the door. You must release the bird back into the wild forest. The forest is full of deep dangers. There are fierce storms and hungry predators. When you open the heavy door, your heart is full of fear. You want to keep the bird safely in your warm cage forever. But if you keep it in the cage, you steal its true purpose. You must let it fly into the dangerous sky. You must trust the wild nature of the bird. You must trust the vast forest to be its true teacher. Stepping back from a loved one is exactly the same. You are simply opening the door of your protective cage. You are returning their soul to the vast universe. It is completely okay if you cannot save everyone. It is completely okay if their journey involves deep pain. Their pain is not your personal failure. Their heavy karma is not a reflection of your own worth. You must forgive yourself for not being able to fix the world. You are only responsible for your own peaceful mind. When you completely surrender them to the divine law, a massive weight lifts from your shoulders. You stop fighting against the perfect flow of the universe. This deep surrender is called equanimity. It is the highest form of pure love. You love them entirely, but you hold zero attachment to their choices. You wish them deep happiness, but you accept their painful lessons. You sit in absolute peace while their storm rages on. Equanimity is like beautiful and cool water. It puts out the burning fire of your anxious mind. When you practice this, you no longer wake up in the middle of the night terrified for their future. You sleep in deep peace. You know that the universe is holding them safely, even when they are falling down. Falling is just another sacred way to learn how to stand up. Your quiet surrender gives them a massive hidden gift. It gives them the complete freedom to fail. And in that freedom to fail, they will eventually find their own way to succeed. They will learn to trust their own strong legs. They will learn to navigate their own heavy karma. Breathe deeply and let the heavy guilt wash away. You have done absolutely nothing wrong. You have simply aligned your heart with the strict laws of the universe. You are honoring their beautiful soul. You are protecting your own vital spirit. This deep acceptance brings a beautiful silence to your mind. The journey then naturally leads to a profound sense of total peace. We have walked a very deep path together. You have looked directly into the complex web of human destiny. You now understand the profound danger of carrying a heavy burden that does not belong to you. This understanding is a magnificent dawn breaking in your own mind. It is the absolute dawn of true spiritual freedom. When you stop trying to manage the universe, a beautiful miracle happens. Your heart becomes incredibly light. The heavy tension in your shoulders completely melts away. You no longer wake up with a chest full of dark anxiety. You realize that the universe is vast, intelligent, and deeply loving. The divine law makes absolutely no mistakes. Every single soul is exactly where it needs to be. Every harsh storm is perfectly timed. Every tear shed is a necessary drop of water for their spiritual garden. You must completely trust this perfect design. Trusting the universe is the ultimate act of deep love. You look at your family, your friends, and those who are struggling. You see their pain clearly. But you no longer view them as helpless victims of a cruel fate. You see them as brave souls walking through their own sacred fire. You honor their journey with a quiet and respectful mind. Your role is no longer the frantic rescuer. You are now the steady and radiant lighthouse. You stand firmly on your own peaceful shore. You shine the warm light of pure compassion. You offer safe harbor to those who seek your gentle guidance. But you let them steer their own ships through the dark waters. This profound shift in your heart heals the deepest wounds of toxic attachment. The people you love will feel this massive change in your energy. They will no longer feel the heavy weight of your constant worry. Your silent trust gives them immense space to breathe. It gives them the vital room to discover their own hidden wings. They will eventually learn to fly in their own beautiful sky. As you move forward in your daily life, carry this profound peace with you. When the old urge to interfere rises up, simply take a deep breath. Gently observe the anxious feeling. Then release it entirely into the wind. Remind yourself that letting go is the highest expression of pure kindness. You are simply stepping out of the way. You are allowing the divine law to work its absolute magic. May your mind remain as clear as a calm mountain lake. May your heart remain open, warm, and deeply untouched by unnecessary sorrow. The journey of the soul is a magnificent mystery. We simply witness the beautiful unfolding of life. We trust the profound wisdom hidden in every single moment. May peace wrap its gentle arms around your spirit today and always.